Get Gutsy, episode number 209 with Tracy Matthews. Creatives rule the world. Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting-edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now. Hey everyone, Jenny here. Oh yeah, do we have an incredible episode for you today on Get Gutsy. Welcome, settle in. We got some amazing places to go. I have an incredible guest. You're going to love her. Before I tell you more about the episode, want to ensure you know that I have an incredible program you are invited to be a part of. Have you heard the news? It's called Power Brand Camp. It is off the charts, and I'd love to have you inside. Power Brand Camp is dedicated to helping you take a stand, share more, serve more, and sell more. I'm taking a drink right now. Excuse me. Keeping it real. I have my kombucha here on the table. I got to keep this intro short and sweet because I've got to go pick up my daughter from school. Real life, what it is to be a working mama. If you are one, you get it. Always maximizing the time that I have to be able to do the work that I want to do in this world and that I'm here to do in this world. So listen, we already have the most amazing people in Power Brand Camp. You're going to hear me talking about it basically throughout the month of April because that is when enrollment is open. I have big dreams for the number of people we're going to serve in this program. I want you to check it out. It's jennyfennig.com/brand. I did something bold as I knew I was going to lead this program right before Take a Stand Live. Basically, that was it. I wanted to make all the women who are coming to Take a Stand Live like super ready for that experience. So everyone who signs up for Take a Stand Live gets a spot in Power Brand Camp. But I also wanted to open up Power Brand Camp to those of you who can't come to Take a Stand Live for whatever reason. Travel is just not possible for you on May 18th and 19th. I get it. I still want to help you. And so I said, listen, I'm going to make this price so juicy, so doable for you, pay in full or payment plan, because we need to really band together as women on a mission, taking your work to higher and higher levels. When you do that, you're able to touch so many more lives. You're able to have this ripple effect simply by you getting out there, being confident, saying to the world, I can help you. Like to your people, I can help you. I want to help you. This is what I'm here to do. And I want to give you that heads up. Power brands are very well known in their market and they sell in large quantities. So if you want to really increase your power brand persona, get your work out there in a bigger way, make more money, do wonderful things with that money. There's never been a better opportunity to work with me in this round of Power Brand Camp. So jennyfennig.com/brand, come in, get yourself in there. You're going to meet the most amazing women who you will be connected to from here until forever, as long as you want that connection to be there. You know, that's what happens in my programs. I see the women who meet and I see what happens for them and they end up partnering up on certain projects. They become super close. They travel together. They support one another. And I have a knack for bringing together the most amazing women. All right, so that's Power Brand Camp. I'll see you inside. Today we have Tracy Matthews for you. The theme is Creatives Rule the World. You're going to adore her. Her energy is so powerful. I met her a few years ago in person, was immediately impressed by her. Her enthusiasm for her work and her mission just came through very clearly. And I invited her to be on the show. And Tracy said yes. And you're in for a treat with where we go with this episode. I love how transparent she is and just honest about the highs and the lows of being a business owner. Tracy's a jewelry designer, all right? And she's here to bring an end to the starving artist syndrome. She shares a low point in her career that happened during a financial downturn, which was filing for bankruptcy with her first company. She closed that company, filed for bankruptcy, and that allowed her to see that she was here for something so much more. She was here for a completely different type of business model. So she has the scars and the experience that honestly all business owners have. Like, not everyone goes through the bankruptcy thing, but we all go through the highs and lows. And the more that we are willing to weather these ups and downs and share our lessons learned with our people, the more of an effective teacher we are, and the more that we can bring truth to the journey. So today she shares her wisdom with creatives everywhere around the world. You're going to hear how she redesigned the business and everything that she's doing now. She's built a scalable business, helping visionaries use their creativity to cut through the BS and make more money. And during our conversation, you'll hear that Tracy's super real about what's up in business and in life. It's not always going to take the road that you think it will. And when you stay the course and live your truth, great things will manifest. So if you are a creative, and most of the women in my community are, you're going to get a tremendous amount of value from this episode of Get Gutsy. Enjoy.
All right, so pumped to have another amazing episode here of Get Gutsy. Tracy Matthews, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here, Jenny. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I just love your energy. I love you. I'm trying to remember, we met through Jen Kem.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And we must have just met at one of her events for the first time.
I think so. I think my friend Clint and I ended up at one of her events in Brooklyn.
Yes.
We were sitting next to you, and I'm like, I think we may have been Facebook friends already, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, right.
It's always one of those things where you know people from like afar, and then we were just chit-chatting and hit it off. Then I saw you at like all the events, all the things.
Right. Well, then you end up in the same real room, and you're like, oh wait, you're the person I see on social media. That's really interesting. So yeah, totally. That was, it's the fun part of this wild world that we're in, where the bulk of the connection happens through the computer. And then we have these opportunities to be real in a room. And we did have that opportunity to be real in a room. So for everyone who does not know you yet, they're going to after today. Let everyone know, like, what's your deal? What's your business?
What's my deal?
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of things. I'm one of those multi-passionate entrepreneurs, but I started my career in the jewelry industry, launching a jewelry collection back in the 90s, which is like the Stone Age. But I launched that business selling to stores, and over the course of 11 years, I was sold in over 350 stores around the world. I had tons of press and celebrity clients, like all the things, and then 2008 happened and the economy crashed, and I had to make a tough choice. And so I made a pivot. I closed my business, started a new jewelry company that was much smaller and less leveraged. And we might get into some of the reasons why I closed the business and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't even know what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll see.
Right.
And then I started another jewelry company, but just really to work with more private clients, because I realized I'd gotten away from the thing that I love to do the most, which was to design and to work with people, because I'm an extrovert and I love people. Like, I love listening to people. I love helping people. And this new business model was a way for me to really interact directly with my customers and provide them basically a service, delivering beautiful pieces of jewelry that, really marked special occasions, or, their engagement or wedding, or even, honoring people that they'd lost in their life, redesigning heirlooms. And because I was pretty well known back in the early 2000s and 90s, I would get a lot of emerging designers, because being a jewelry designer wasn't so popular back then. It was like a thing that was kind of happening. Now there's like, you could throw a rock and hit one pretty much. I would get designers asking for help with their business. Can I pick your brain, or can we go to coffee? I'm in New York or whatever. And I'm like, well, I have limited time, and also time is, money. So I would get on the phone with them, and just, if I thought I could really help them, I would say, we can consult for a while. So I started picking up consulting clients.
Mm-hmm.
Then
let's just pause there for a moment, because this is important for people to take in, because we all get those emails and those, can I pick your brain? That's honestly one of my least favorite lines. Like, I don't want to have my brain picked. Ouch.
No, ow.
That's just a personal preference. But yeah, those things happen. And so did you immediately just say, yeah, I'm going to start charging for that? Or did you kind of run into the thing where you did it a few times, you're like, I don't have time to actually do the work that people are paying me for. So how did you make that pivot?
Well, this was happening throughout my entire career. And so I'd shoot a couple emails. Like, I wasn't consulting when I had Tracy Matthews Designs, because we were just way too busy. And I was in 350 stores. You can imagine the production that was involved in that, or capabilities. So we just shoot off an email, give them a few tips, and then they would just eventually leave us alone. But that's, I was kind of had more time in this new business, because it wasn't cranking out a bunch of jewelry and managing a team. It was really just more about me. And I was teaching yoga at the time. So I did it a little bit, and I realized I really liked helping people. And because I was teaching yoga, actually one of my students in one of my classes said that she had started a collection. So I started helping her. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I really charged, I think, for consulting. And that's how I kind of developed my package. Mm-hmm. And it just came to this moment, like, I can't really help you that much doing just like answering these random one-off questions, because really the value is in starting from over here. And they were asking questions over here. So why don't we work together, like, and have like a logical progression of steps to move forward in your business. And I'm like, in order to do that, I have to charge you. And so it was like, I can't remember how it pivoted. It's just, I started getting more people asking for help. And so I'm like, oh, well, this is a thing. Maybe it's another way to make money. So.
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge you for that, and celebrate you, and for our listeners, to remind you, like, you're allowed to do that too. There's no rule that says you have to help people for free all the time. And when you're getting the same, it's like, you notice that trend, you notice a pattern. Wow, there's a lot of people who are reaching out to me for this. I think this is a thing. This is it's like someone asking you for to design a piece of jewelry. You wouldn't just do that for free. And so this is no different. But a lot of people who are in service businesses, like, you're not producing an actual product, they fall into that trap of going, oh, okay, well, I just want to be friendly. I want to be helpful. I want to be nice. But it gets to a point where you're hurting yourself, and you can't continue that. And so I love that you realize, oh, wow, I'm going to charge for this. And you did that person a favor, because like you said, to just kind of answer these one-off questions, you need to look at the whole picture here and get a sense of what do you really want from this? Mm-hmm. And that's the core of, consulting and coaching and all of that beautiful work.
100%. And I also liken it to the fact that, I was teaching yoga and offering private lessons. It's like getting a private yoga lesson. You wouldn't just go to someone's house randomly and teach them yoga for free. So yeah. And so I'd started seeing, this was like in 2010 or so. And I'd started seeing design people out there, like, kind of selling like scalable courses and stuff like that. And so just kind of keeping my eye on it. And that was sort of after I'd started having a couple of consulting clients under my belt, and then getting no's from people because they couldn't afford the investment of it. I think I was charging like $1,000 a month at the time. Mm-hmm. And they would get 4 calls or something with me, unlimited email, like all the things. And I'm like, maybe I should just develop a course, because I could do that and maybe charge $500 or $1,000 total. And it would equal 6 months or a year of consulting with me, because it's basically everything that I'm teaching them. Yep. And so that's sort of when I pivoted into teaching, like, on a more scalable level. And I launched Flourish and Thrive Academy with my friend, Robin Kramer. I think because I had closed my business, I was not super confident in my ability to do something on my own again. And I was like, I feel like this could be a really big thing. And having someone else in the industry with me start it would be like, take the pressure off me if for some reason it didn't if it failed. Mm-hmm. And but she also brought so much awesomeness to the table, because she really is, like, we call her like a natural nurturer. And she doesn't like it when I say this, but I'm like, she was like the mother, she's the mother hen. So started Flourish and Thrive Academy, and now we've served thousands, tens of thousands of people in that community through my weekly podcast and through our courses and everything. So it's been really cool. I no longer do one-on-one consulting. Robin and I, about a year and a half ago, decided to change our arrangement because she wanted to really start a wholesale mastermind, which is her expertise. And I wanted to focus on online mastermind. So we're still working together, but in a different capacity. And she has like her own group of people that she coaches, and I have my own group of people that are a different group that we run. So it's always evolving. And I feel like over this past like several years, I'm like, kind of like, what's my next thing? You know, it's like, I feel like, I don't know if the members of your community, which I'm sure that they do, because this is the Get Gutsy podcast, you know, they feel like they're being called to do something, and that always changes over the years. And so what I've noticed working with people who have really deep-seated at times mindset issues because they're artists and they don't always believe in themselves. I mean, I've been there myself too, is that I wanted to kind of change that frame, because I think people think because I've seen this over and over again, think that because they're creative that they're not good at business, which I think is total lie and like BS. It's just an excuse for people not to have to. I think sometimes people use that as an excuse, like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. But actually, it's my belief that creatives are the best at business because they have this gift of ideation and coming up with new ways to think about business and create. And so in January, I launched another business because I don't have enough right now, 3 businesses, called Creatives Rule the World. And my passion there is to really inspire creative thinkers, visionaries of small and mighty companies to use their creativity to actually make money, because I think it's the most valuable asset that any of us have, is our ability to think outside of the box and to pivot when needed and to continue to grow and to believe in that creative gift that we have, believe that it's actually our biggest asset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, wow. There's so much here. Creatives rule the world. Yes. Use your creativity to make money. And to your point, I've seen that too, where those who consider themselves creative, and what a gift it is to be a creative. I consider myself one as well. That many people don't have that gift, you know, to be able to come up with an idea. It's like, I mean, I say I create things out of thin air, you know, I'm like out of thin air. And there's many who just aren't designed in that way. They are a different type of thinker, and they might be the implementer, the integrator for the ideas person. So to have these gifts of just things dropping in and being able to make it, you know, make it with your hands, make it on the computer, make it in a room, you know, in terms of an experience. But you know, it's very easy to say, well, I don't understand numbers. I don't get the whole cash flow thing. And you can kind of hide behind that because, you know, honestly, the creative part is very fun. It's very enjoyable. And I did that for the first several years of my business. Like, I just want to just have fun, and I want to create stuff. And I kind of like ran away. I started my career in corporate, and I was, you know, last job, it was all about the numbers, and twice a day we look at the numbers, and it was like you either felt happy or sad based on what the numbers said. And like, I don't want to ever deal with that again. I don't want my life to be ruled by numbers. But you can't ignore numbers in business. I mean, business is a set of numbers, you know, and there are people behind the numbers. And so we don't want to forget these are humans, which some people I think forget that part. But you know, as a creative, you're not going to be able to sustain this work if you're not willing to get smarter here. And you can get help. I mean, there's people out there who this is their thing. And I know I've definitely benefited from that. So you mentioned this whole creatives rule the world. So tell us more about this new body of work. And this seems like what you're really, you know, taking a stand for in 2019 and beyond.
It is. I want to address one thing about your integrators and left brain people too. And also creative people and numbers, because I think we both have access to both sides of our brain. It's our ability to actually use it. And so I'm always fascinated by people who are really good at exercising both both sides of their brain.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, when I started business, I was afraid to look at numbers. I used to avoid them at all costs. I thought that just because I had all these ideas and I was creative, that wasn't something I was good at. I actually love it now. I become like obsessed with it. And I think if you can make it fun as a creative person, you can almost gamify, gamify the game of sales. That's like not a good way to say it, but like, because you can make this like something that it's empowering to actually have a grasp of how all those things work. Now, it might not be that you're the person entering the data into your bookkeeping. I wouldn't recommend that necessarily. For most of us, I think that's like, it's always the first thing I'm like, outsource that. That's like the first thing when you have enough money to do that. But at the end of the day, like, it's important to understand it. It's important to read your reports. It's important to have a grasp of like what you need to do to break even in your company and actually make a profit, because this is how you grow a business. And if you avoid it, you will never have a successful business and you will be in the red. And it doesn't matter how you think. But also, if you're someone who's more left brain starting a business and you're an entrepreneur and you're more of like the integrator type, where and it's harder to come up with ideas, and you're not hiring a visionary in your company because you don't have time for that. You can do things to actually exercise the right side of your brain just to get into creative mode. And it just requires you to create space for yourself to do that. And so, in time. I think the thing is like, a lot of times analytical driven people, I know when I'm getting busy, like in all the tasks and all the things, they're just forward checking things off the list. If you allowed yourself like maybe once a week, a 3-hour window to just do anything, like you'd be surprised at how creative you get and how the ideas would start to come. So
that's such a great point. And I find too, with, being in nature or exercise, I got a Peloton a few weeks back and it's like, oh my God, I get on there. I mean, I am a creative person, so I don't lack for ideas, but for everyone, it's just have that unscheduled, well, it's put it on your schedule, but where you don't have things booked in there, where you're not trying to get like creative in a 10-minute little sliver, but to take care of your body, get out in nature, listen to music. Last night, Stephen and I went to the Pixies concert. We saw and Weezer. This was a few weeks after that, but like I feel like I'm on fire right now because I danced my butt off and I was just rocking. Like we have to be, you have to do that stuff, and we want to do the business right, do right by the business. But something I think this will amplify my creativity and bring so much more to my business. And I think you can appreciate this, Tracy, is it's easy though to kind of lose some of that fun factor when it almost feels like you get too responsible, for me anyway. And when I get in that place, it's like, why am I doing this to myself? Like no one is telling me I have to do these things. Nobody says, Jenny, this business is the only thing you can do in the whole wide world. And you can't have, can't get loose with it or anything. And so, just even going to that concert last night was my way of saying, I want to be free like this. And when I'm there, I was so inspired by their artists, and yet they're business people, or else they wouldn't have had this tour with people in the freaking arena. So they have to be willing to put their art out there. But I was also really taken by, these songs, a lot of them have been around for decades. Okay. Yes. And we're still freaking singing them. And those are our favorite ones. And so when the new ones come on, you're like, have you heard this one? I don't know this one. And so we're still you're
like, I have no idea which one this is.
Well, to the point I was thinking in terms of our businesses, and when we have these programs or offers that are very popular, there's no reason to throw it out because people still want that. And so we can look at like the scalability and the leverage, and that we have kind of our greatest hits and things that really, people love about us. And that's thinking like not just a creative, but as that business person. So, wow, this is such a juicy conversation, such a juicy conversation. All right. So talk about creatives rule the world. Where are you going with this? What do you think?
I love that you brought up a concert, because I went to Fleetwood Mac 2 nights ago, and I was like,
the Garden, my friend.
Oh my God. I got lucky because I got an invite. My friend is.
Have you seen them before?
I don't think so. I thought I had, and I just realized I hadn't. It was so good. I mean, like
Life-changing.
Christine McVie. I was just like, I'm obsessed with her, and I love karaoke, and she is like my Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac songs are like my favorite thing to sing.
Yes.
So it was like such a gift, and like they didn't really sing it. They were singing all the old hits, and
That's what people want.
I know Lindsey Buckingham didn't go on tour with them, so I was like, is that Lindsay on stage singing? Because I recognized the guy, and I almost died and went to heaven because it was Neil Finn, who I'm obsessed with from Crowded House, is on tour with Fleetwood Mac right now. I'm just like, oh my God, it was so good. But yeah, I was so inspired after that.
Right. We get inspired because but you know what's also cool? And this is just a fun conversation. They're all risk takers. You know, they had to be willing. And and something I just want to give a pointer to people tuning in. Over the holiday break, I tend to take time off, like Christmas and New Year's. I just chill. I'm like, I'm done. And it felt very bold for me because it wasn't like a business book or a personal development book. I read Stevie Nicks's biography, and it was called Gold Dust Woman. Oh so man, good. Go check it out. I freaking blazed through that thing in about 2 days. And you just learn because that's what we're doing here. We're creatives. We do create, even for those of you who are more left-brained. If you're in a business, you're creating something. Okay, you're creating something of value that people want to buy. They want to invest their time, money, and energy in. And so when you read about someone who has had an illustrious career, you're going to realize that it's not always been easy. They haven't, just like walk their way to the bank every day. I mean, there's been stuff that has gone down, things that you need to navigate, and it helps. I mean, it helps me just to be able to saddle up for another day and like, all right, let's go.
Let's do this.
Let's go.
I love that. Yeah. So it's so true too, because like business isn't a straight line up. It's like a road of ups and downs. And we talk about, all of us have those things. And I think that's why I'm so inspired by having this business, Creatives Rule the World, because it's the first time I've really allowed myself to just create a platform for creating the platform's sake, without like necessarily like an objective or a goal. And so I had this idea. So I went to a Brendan Bouchard event. I think it must have been like 2 years ago now, or 3 years ago, 3 years maybe. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was, my friend invited me. It was like his High Performance Academy event that he was having in San Diego. Traffic and conversion was happening at the same time. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go to another event, but she's like, you got to go. This is so good. And it was awesome. But he made us state out loud a really massive goal that we at the moment didn't really think was possible. Like something that makes you kind of really want to throw up when you say it out loud.
Okay, good.
And I said, and I don't know why, because like I'd never wanted to do a TED Talk before, but I was like, I want to do a TED Talk with 20 million views. And I think I first said like 5 million. And then the person in the group's like, well, what about 20 million? I was like, all right, 20 million views. I'm going to do this. And they're like, what are you passionate about? I'm like, it's really like kind of crushing the starving artist syndrome with creative thinkers, and also creating support for visionaries of companies. Because I feel like when I know for myself, because I'm highly visionary, I'm highly creative, but I also love business. I'm like one of those people, that personality types that like, I literally am not like, I'm one of those people who is really good at delegating. I'm not really good at like starting something and finishing it.
Right.
Completion, like it's more of a struggle for me. So, and I know there's a lot of people like me out there. And so
me, well, I will oversee it getting done, but I don't want to be the one to like plug up all the buttons and do that, and test it. I'm like, you do that, make sure it gets done. But that's important to know that about yourself, and to know the delegation part is really awesome, that you don't just sit here and like let it be, halfway. Like, no, and that's part of being a business person. Like, I need the right person on the bus, because I believe in finishing, but I know that I'm not the right person to do it, because I'm the ideas person. I'm the one who's connecting prospects. I'm the one who's putting out the message. I am, kind of making the noise out there on social media. I'm attending, events, or, all that. Like, we can't do all the things. And I feel like that's a piece of what you're bringing to this Creatives Rule the World, because so many probably are trying to do all the things, and they have a lot of half-done projects.
Yes. And I've seen it in my community and I've seen it with other people. And then what ends up happening is that it burns you out and you feel like you can't get your business off the ground. And so there is a real reality, like, as we're starting a business and building it, we kind of have to do all the things in the beginning, like until you can afford to hire people or until you can start get enough like money in your business to like say, okay, I'm going to hire a part-time VA for a small, even if it's an overseas one for $5 an hour or whatever. Or, I remember the first time I did that, it felt so stressful because I'm like $100 a week. Like, how am I going to pay for that? Now I have like so many team members. I'm like, I missed that $100 a week that I used to only pay, in payroll. But at the end of the day, like I realized that the more like things that sucked my creative energy that I could get off the plate, that someone was better at and faster at, the more I could grow the company, which is like, I think like sort of what you're saying, out there networking, being in front of people, coming up with the ideas, being able to oversee the bigger project, but not being the hands in. Yeah. So that to me, this is really important, is like to protect that visionary energy that you have, or creative energy, like however you think about yourself. It's not just for people who consider themselves visionary, because I don't think all people who are creative are necessarily visionaries.
Yes, I agree with that.
Visionaries are creative. So,
yes.
And so, I was kind of thinking about this. I actually like created a quote meme. It like came to me the other day. I'm like, I'm here to like kind of bust this starving artist syndrome thing, because and call it the thriving artist syndrome, because I really think that we have this great potential to use our creative gifts to make money. It's just like, that's the thing that makes money everywhere. And I have this friend who is an artist. Her name's Ashley Longshore. She's like an acquaintance friend. Like if she was showing in New York, I'd show up and I'd be like, oh my gosh, whatever. I'm not calling her up necessarily on the phone, but.
What kind of artist?
She is a pop artist, and she is so successful. She's landed partnerships with Gucci, with Anthropology, with she's getting flown around on a private jet now. And it's so cool because when I met her originally about 10 years ago, my friend had just moved to New Orleans. She's based in New Orleans. She was good friends with her. We had dinner, we had a blast, and I went into her studio. I ended up doing a barter for some jewelry for some artwork. And I'm like, she's crushing it. And she's very prolific. Like she would be like painting like 3 paintings a week. And her stuff, she had some stuff that was like super edgy. Like she paints things that are like super edgy. It's like pop culture. But then she also paints these really beautiful things. Like one thing that she's known for are these paintings and in profile of Audrey Hepburn. And she does them all in different ways with like butterflies and gemstones and all this stuff. And I will buy one day.
Yes.
And, she really believed in herself, and she would start getting, one celebrity would come in and then that celebrity would refer another one. And now she is like a gajillionaire just because she believed in herself. She believed in her art. She didn't go the traditional route as an artist, didn't go the gallery route, and she takes home all the money.
Okay, so when you say didn't go the gallery route, so she just sells privately to the people who find out about her.
Yeah, she has her own gallery. She has her own gallery, but she's not being shown in another gallery because, especially like traditional artists are taught that the only way that you can sell your artwork is by getting picked up by a gallery. That's the only way to be successful. But I think that there's so many ways to be successful as a creative, as an artist, or whatever. It's like, I never thought as a jewelry designer, I went through this huge existential crisis when I closed my first business down, because I was just like, who am I if I'm not designing jewelry? You know what I mean? And if I'm not in all these stores and doing something differently. And then I quickly realized as my business started to take off, maybe like a year and a half or 2 in, this was the best move I ever made, because I actually love what I'm doing now. And I hated my business before because of all the commitment and obligation and cash flow issues that I was having, because having this scaled product-based business when I'm shipping $100,000 orders and not getting paid for 90 days for the materials and the labor. Yeah. This was taking home a heck of a lot more money, even though my sales were like a fraction
lower. Right.
what I was doing, which is
that's
so
important to know. And it's the ego thing, right? It's the
It was so
ego conversation where, and it's funny, my daughter is rollerblading in the room.
they're hammering outside my door. Sorry
okay,
about
cool.
that.
No, I don't hear it. But it's just funny. I'm like, yeah, Kate's like, she's a roller derby queen. She's got this. You would love. I put a picture up on social media today, but she's got this, like, it's like a sequin shirt. It's like a dress sequin. It's like ruffles at the bottom and
Amazing.
it's brown, and her rollerblades, and she cruises around. Sometimes she takes her shopping cart and she pretends they're horses.
I love it.
Stuff in there. Oh, you'd love her. We'll get some jewelry of yours one day for her. She loves gems, jewels. Oh God, it's like she's like girly girl heaven. Yeah. So yeah, the whole conversation around, and there's, in this space too, with the online programs and coaching and the consulting and stuff, there's such a conversation around revenue.
Oh gosh.
And, the 8 figures and the 17 figures and that stuff. And then, but yeah, what kind of profit are we talking, and what kind of life do you have? Okay. Is this the kind of business, are you having fun? Like, are you enjoying this? Are you freaking stressed out? Because like you said, in the first business that you had, you were shipping all the product, and you had to wait like 3 months to get paid back. And then I believe I remember reading an article, it was during the financial crisis, and then you didn't get paid back on some of these, on some of these bills. So
you do not.
You don't have to have, that's what everyone needs to really look at. Is your business model working? And, I went through that, in my corporate life, the existential crisis and the kind of the come to Jesus moment with my ego, where I was making, I didn't go into my career to make a lot of money. Okay. If I would have wanted that, I would have gone into finance. I went to New York City, and I went to public relations. That's like one of the lowest paying career paths. And I remember I had a roommate. I went to New York for a summer internship between junior and senior year. I had never been to New York City before. I was like, oh my God. And I grew up in Florida, went to University of Florida, and I lived with 4 other girls in a dorm at Columbia University. They had housing for summer interns. And a few of us were PR girls and 2 were finance. There were 3 PRs and 2 finance. And their room and board was paid for. They were getting paid a lot in the summer. Like, we were paying for our own room and board. We got a piddly take. And I remember going like, what is investment banking? Like, I've never even heard of that. And they were working at Goldman Sachs. I'm like, could you tell me what that is? And, and so eventually I learned how to earn more money, and I moved out of PR and went into this whole career I never even heard of, which was conference production. I started getting profit share, and that was like a whole new ball game. And I was making close to $200,000, in that last career. Yeah, which was like massive for me. And I actually had to do some work around like receiving and knowing what to do with the money, because sometimes you get these big checks and you're like, I just want to spend it, because I just don't know how to handle this. It's too much energy, it's too much energy. I wasn't prepared adequately. I was in my 20s. And so when we realize, this is not enjoyable for me. I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life, but I thought I was going to do this. I thought this is what success looks like. So now what? Now what am I supposed to do? So what was that like when you were in that time with that, because it's not, you've evolved and you've created something extraordinary now, but when you had to, was that really hard that you went through of this, I'm going to shut this down? Like what did you have to do to get there?
The health aftermath was pretty rough. I mean, I developed a thyroid issue during that time, and my hair was falling out. I'm skinny, but it wasn't really for a healthy reason. It's like I couldn't, it was rough. And so physically I just felt drained and exhausted all the time. And I was dating a guy at the time. I remember being just so ashamed to really tell the truth of what was going on. I'm like, oh, I'm closing my business. And that really was a choice of mine to close it, but I didn't really tell the full story, which was that I had to file for bankruptcy, and there was a huge financial aftermath after because of all these companies filing for bankruptcy on me. And so I was like, maybe I'll be a yoga teacher, because I'd been teaching yoga for many years. I'd gotten divorced when I was 30, and after that, I'd been practicing yoga. My ex-husband introduced me to yoga in our early 20s, and I've been practicing yoga. And the studio I was going to, he's like, I'm doing this teacher training. I think you should do it because you're good at yoga. I was like, sure, I'll do it. And never with the intention of teaching, but then he offered me a job, and all these yoga teaching jobs just started falling in my lap. And so I would teach yoga on the side for many years, like while I was building this jewelry business. And I relocated to New York. I had planned to quit teaching yoga. And I still have Tracy Matthews designs, but I walked into an Equinox in Orange County, where I'm from, where I grew up in Newport Beach during Thanksgiving. And the teacher didn't show up. And I was like, some hoo-ha in the front, that's like not very nice to say, but he has been practicing yoga maybe a month, said, oh, I know this teacher's class really well. I can teach it. I said, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm happy to teach the class as long as you don't mind me practicing with you. And everyone, the students in the room, we all really needed it. It was stressful, Thanksgiving, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I got offered a job on the spot. I'm like, well, I don't live here. And so I started teaching yoga again randomly because I got introduced to an Equinox. And I felt like this thing was a gift because it had fallen into my lap literally a year and a half before my business failed. And so this allowed some stability and like a sense of purpose in my life. Okay, I have a place to go, and I can pick up more classes because Equinox in New York is like the premier gym. And there was like, there was like 30 at the time. So I could get enough classes to at least cover my rent. And then through that, I started teaching in some corporate jobs, and then doing not corporate jobs, corporate private lessons or whatever for the
okay. Yeah, they would hire you.
Yeah. And then that gave me something like stable to start building my new jewelry company and I just told people, I'm taking a break, don't really know what's next. And I would just try to be divinely guided into what was next. Can't say that I was always good at it, but like, because I was teaching yoga and really in touch with I committed to meditating every morning, that I just tried to let things come in. And I feel like this is where I realized how important this gift of creativity, because that space was where I started coming up with the ideas. Okay, I'm going to launch this new company. Here are some ways to get out there. I'd taken my first online course at the time to learn how to really build my business using my website. And so that was really exciting because I was getting like local leads coming in. I was getting a ton of people filling out my forms. And I was learning really how to vet people in this new like one-on-one situation, which was so different. I had pretty good sales skills from before, but it was just a different kind of thing. And things just kept falling into my lap. It was awesome. I got reached out to through LinkedIn, which I never looked at. I just like randomly opened it up one day. And 2 weeks prior, a recruiter asked me if I wanted to work for this $400 million company. I was like, I don't really want a job designing jewelry, but I'd be interested to just go on the interview to have a conversation. I ended up negotiating a contract where I worked freelance for them. I didn't have to work in their office. And I designed private label collections for this gajillion dollar company called Stella and Dot for like a year and a half. And that was like,
nice.
Like a fun thing to do, like have on my resume to say like, look, I did this. And it was another thing that just kept adding to the stability that I was rebuilding. And it was nice to do $5,000 a month doing something part-time in addition to the other things that I was doing. And so I just kept being open. And then that's when I was like, and I was starting to get the consulting for jewelry designers. And I'm like, I feel like I've gotten away from your original question. Like, how did I do this? It was just like literally just like letting things come and being open to possibility, which I think is hard to do when you're in the middle of a shit show. Excuse my language. I mean, you can cut that out.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
We have to do that. But I remember this one day, like while all this was happening and the good things started coming in, because we had hit like a really bad recession for a while, running to the bank because I tried to pull money out of my ATM account. This is after I had closed my business. And I called the bank and they're like, your account's, there's a lien against your account. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is before, like, sort of like in that interim period before I got the sell on dot gig.
Mm-hmm.
And this is because I was in the process of like having to wait based on some things that were going on in my life to actually file for bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, that is my last $4,000 of cash that I have. Like, I have to go get it back and protect it.
Yeah.
So it was sort of the start of like, okay, I got to move this bankruptcy thing forward. I can't wait anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. You know, it's like trying to keep your like stuff together when things like that are happening. You're just like, oh my gosh, like my like financial well-being is like under seizure by the government. It was like,
right. Yeah. What a feeling.
like such a crazy time. But even in the midst of that, I just really tried to focus on what was going well in my life instead of that. And I knew that it was just a season, and that it would take some time to resolve. I'm still in the aftermath of it because I think I'm like in like maybe the 7th year, but you know, it's even now it's like, it's hard. You know, I'm a firm believer in, I don't even think I've really shared this kind of stuff on a podcast or anything before, but I'm a firm believer in running a business on cash flow based on what happened in my previous business. Because we had to take a lot of financing and loans and stuff to finance the inventory.
Right.
And so this time around, I was like, I'm only running my businesses ever on cash flow again. But it was, you know, we had some, I had a business coach saying like, you know, even though you don't need it, maybe you should just think about getting a line of credit, because there might be a time when you want to expand or something that you can grow. I went to the bank. They're like, all your financials look amazing. They wanted to give me, and like, because I had so much money in the bank, they're like, we can extend like $100,000. But there's this one thing, and the reason why we can't approve it is because of this bankruptcy thing. And so it becomes, and because of the way my business was set up, if anyone is ever getting business credit cards or lines of credit, you have to personally guarantee it as a solopreneur for a while, especially if you're S Corp or solo LLC or whatever. I think if you're a C Corp, there's a way around it, but most people in our space don't ever develop C Corps because of a sole owner. Make sure, I didn't know that you could do this, but make sure after you prove to them that you can change it and put your tax ID in your business as the guarantor instead of yourself. Because if you don't, like, it will follow you for the rest of your life. So that was like a huge lesson that I learned throughout that process. And so, like, I just feel really grateful that I was kind of divinely guided through all of this, but also to know that I've built this business where I don't even really need that. It was just something I was going to do because, because like someone told me I should, and I'm like, yeah, well, it might be nice to have just that available if I ever did need it.
Right. But you know, down the line, you could get there. Understand it's like 7 years, right?
Yeah,
7 or 8 or something like that. But you know what? It's a great lesson, and you know, if you listen to, I mean, gosh, I've been really into this How I Built This podcast.
Oh, I love that one.
Such a good. I'm like, it's my go-to. And you know, you hear these stories from founders and these massive companies. You know, there's companies that like pretty much everyone's heard of, and everyone's got their own journey. But gosh, a lot of them have extreme financial situations that they've needed to navigate. And that's the thing with business. Business is money. And so we have to be willing to learn. And then when we fall down, okay, what were those lessons? And I don't want to keep falling in those same holes. And, you know, I just want to acknowledge you, Tracy, what you've been able to build and, you know, recover. And I don't know if I knew that about the yoga teacher thing with you. Can't remember if we've talked about that, because that was my exodus out of corporate. I trained to become a yoga teacher.
Like a lot of people do. It's like the transition.
Like, I got to get out of here. And I quit my job while I was at the tail end of the yoga teacher training, went from 6 figures to 0 figures. I'm like, oh my God. And then I got mad at yoga a little bit. I'm like, I think I just got brainwashed by yoga, but it all worked out. And then it led me to coaching. And it's your point about just staying open. And we're not trying to force, we don't have to kind of figure it out today. But when we're open and when we're on that path that has been designed for us, those beautiful things are going to keep dropping in our laps. And when we are still in that building phase, to your point, when we can get that regular revenue in, like for you, that Stella and Dot opportunity, for me, I was a freelance conference producer, which was my last corporate job. I got the opportunity to freelance. I was very clear. They wanted to hire me full time. I was like, nope, I'll work from home. It'll be a freelance contract position. I'm building a business. I was very clear with them. I was very upfront and transparent. And it worked so well because you're not stressing out about all the money needing to come from this new business and being super desperate and super panicky. You know, you just trust that you're going to keep making those right moves. And then like, look at where you are now. I mean, it's so awesome.
It's so fun. Yeah. I feel really, I'm grateful. It's, you know, you would ask me in 2008 and 2009 if I ever would have imagined what's happening now, the answer would have been no. So it's awesome. Just got to stay the course, right?
Stay that course. All right. Well, obviously you are a gutsy woman, Tracy. I want to know, this is the question I ask all my guests. What is the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
I think the gutsiest thing that I ever did, I mean, it's hard to pick one, but I remember the most vulnerable thing, which felt gutsy to me, was to admit to people publicly that I'd filed for bankruptcy because, and ideally that it started with me shooting a sales video for our first course. And it was like shot on my phone. I remember like, because it was so close to me at the time, like I only like finalized it maybe a year ago. I could not help but start crying. And I remember when I put it out there with some tears in it, we edited it and there was some crying. I was getting criticized for it, not for stating the story, but for being emotional. And I was just like, so I started getting really defensive, and I was like, but it's important because this is what everyone fears as an artist. Like I went through like everyone's deepest fear, like it actually happened to me. And to be that vulnerable and to share that and then be criticized for it, that was pretty rough. But I realized that there's so much power in being honest. And I was out to dinner with a friend of mine last night, and she said to me, you know, I think the reason why, and she's running speaker events, and she asked me to speak at an event that in a couple of weeks. And she's like, the reason why people really resonate with you, Tracy, and why, number one, and why we asked you is because you're actually real and you're not trying to create this fake persona of being like perfect, because you're not. Like nobody. Those flaws are the things that people connect with. And you've had your ups and downs, and I think people can really relate to stories like that. I don't think that, you know, there's this whole thing, and especially in the online world that we live in, Jenny, about people being vulnerable. And, you know, I teach this to my jewelry designers too, but there's a difference between, it's this fine line about being transparency and vulnerability. And it runs a spectrum, right? We were talking earlier about people like publicly announcing like every freaking day on Facebook about how much money they're making. But like, what's the real transparency? Like you're making 8 figures, but how much is it costing you to make that 8 figures? Like I heard one time someone saying like, well, they might be spending like almost 8 figures in ads. And then that's like really like no profitability, you know, whatever. Exactly. And then there's also this other thing where people are just train wrecks sharing their, most PMI. Why it's happening. Like that's the wrong time to be vulnerable. After the lesson is learned, and you can use it as a teaching moment. So I think that was the hardest thing to do, because I knew that it was going to be a teaching moment for people, but I was so ashamed in that moment of that, because I was very proud and my ego was driving my business. My ego was driving me at the time. And so taking a step back and realizing that my story, there was power in that to share with other people, was hard because it was revealing. And I'm single, and if someone Googles me, it's like the first thing that comes up. You know, there's an entrepreneur article that I was featured in, went viral probably because of that. You know, it's like people love a good like lose all your money story. And, I can't run from it now. And so it's like always going to be, and so like it's always going to be in the forefront of my life, you know, and it's something that it's crazy to think that, because I don't think that that's the marker of my success, but it is.
But you also don't need to hide from it now. And that's the thing. It's the truth will set you free. And if I can share a line from Weezer last night, I don't know what song it was, because I was not even a Weezer fan. And so it was Pixies and Weezer, you know,
So good.
It was like 2 for 1. And so, yeah, then I'm like, oh my God, these are like really great in person. They're wonderful performers. But one of the lines was, I don't effing care what you think about me. And so, I mean, and that's really just it. It was just, he like yelled out, I'm like, yeah, I don't effing care what you think about. There's people who don't like that you were, you know what? Fuck you. Like, I'm just gonna say, you know what? This is real life. This is emotions. And you know what? They're not your people. They're not going to join your academy. They're not going to, and so when we get to this place where no matter what we do, and that's the creative path, the entrepreneurial path, there's going to be people who love what we put out. There's going to be people who are indifferent. There's going to be people who really do not like it, but we have to be true to ourselves. And if you aren't willing to just be honest with that, that will eat you alive, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. That's happened for a lot of people. And it was just that time. Look at businesses that go bankrupt. It was just like the business went bankrupt. Not, it's like, it's attached to you because your name's on it, but it happens all the time. It happens every day. So, let's just take all that shame away, and that's such the yogic path too. It's just kind of walk into that truth, and you were willing, and you've been rewarded. You've done the work, and now you're on the other side of it. Oh my gosh, Tracy, how can people find you online? Where do you want to send them? So I know they're going to want to check you out.
I would love to offer you guys my little visionary code download, and it's just a 30-minute audio. I have a podcast, and I love talking into a mic. And so I decided, instead of like doing a PDF, you get an downloadable audio called the Visionary Code. And this is really designed to help you step into or create space for yourself, maybe is the best way to put it, to be creative and manage and lead your team better if you happen to have a team. But if you don't have a team, I think that you'll find a lot of value in this as well. So you can head on over to creativesruletheworld.com/VC. Super easy, visionary code VC, and download it there. You can also find me on Instagram at Tracy Matthews, New York.
Yay. And your stuff is so beautiful. You'll have to check it out. It's just, I wore like some jewels for you today. Some bling.
I noticed them. I love this little lace collar thing.
This was, I know, it kind of, when I have this other shirt on, I feel like Ruth Bader Ginsburg with it.
I know.
Which is, I have this one blue sweater. When I put it on, I'm like, I am a Supreme Court justice right now. But I got this in Mexico. I was leading a retreat down there. I mean, they have wonderful beadwork, in Mexico. Oh my gosh, Tracy, thank you so much for being here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This was a blast and so many gems. I encourage all of you just really tune into those gems and go get Tracy's Visionary Code. That sounds fantastic. This is Jenny Fennig sending you so much love, magic, and confidence as you get gutsy. I will see you next time.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Get Gutsy with Jenny Fennig. Gutsy leaders unite and ignite.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Gutsy as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. Are you responsible for leading and growing your spiritual business? If so, I have a free tool for you that will help you spread your message like wildfire. It's called the Sacred Marketing Puzzle, and it's a one-page PDF guide that simplifies the often mysterious and confusing world of marketing. When you use sacred marketing tools to amplify your message, you'll provide huge value to your tribe and grow your business. What are you waiting for? Go to jennyfennig.com/puzzle to get yours instantly. That's jennyfennig.com/puzzle. Gutsy leaders, unite.